Welcome. And thank you for choosing to spend this time with us, practicing Yin for our hips, our knees, the low back. And that's what Yin practice focuses on as a practice as a whole. Today we will spend 45 minutes trying to enhance the range of motion in our hips. Obviously the hips, the knees, and the lower back are all connected. And so as you see, as we begin in child's pose, so we can center our minds, so we can relax and connect with our own body. My name is Gabriel. We're over here at the Hollywood Market Yoga Studio in Boise, Idaho. Please be sure that if you're to practice anytime on your own, do have a timer with you. As you see, in modern technology, I'm able to use my pad. In this practice, we will hold most of our poses for 5 minutes. Remember that if it's ever too much to stay in the pose for 5 minutes, you can come out of it. And maybe you'll come back to the pose before the time ends. Once you know these poses, and if you feel that they serve you, don't be afraid to stay in the pose longer than 5 minutes. Child's pose, for us at the moment, is just a connector, helping us to connect to our breath, in and out through the nose, to connect to your body. Notice we have no props here. But there's nothing wrong with grabbing a blanket or a pillow. If you need them, you can put the blanket under your feet. If your knees seem a little tense in this pose, you might roll up a towel and put between your knees, right, sliding it between the calf muscle and the hamstring muscle. A pillow might support you if you need to support your back, and we'll suggest that. But the idea here is that in this 45-minute class, you could be in your office, you might be out in the yard, you might be hiking, camping, and you can use this practice in any environment with or without the use of props. In Yin, it's our physical body with gravity that opens our bones. Let your exhale complete. And with your next inhale, you can move your body forward. Maybe you want to lay on your stomach, maybe you want to come into all fours. Wherever you need to release that pose from your body, maybe you shake your legs out for a moment. It's okay to shake the legs. If you know what the downward dog pose is and you need it, feel free to go up into it. Notice that we drew blood into our knees and our legs. And some of our practitioners here are in all fours, some are on down dog. And then we're all coming back down to all fours. And the next pose that targets the hips right away is known as swan. It does look like a pigeon from the yoga traditional practice. You look at your right hand, draw the right knee to the right wrist, slide your right ankle in line with your left knee, slide your left leg towards the back of the mat. If you feel like your body has flexibility, you might pull your right foot forward, flexing the foot lightly. With your hands on the floor, you slightly adjust your hips. Feel that you can square lightly, but then you want to feel a stretch from your right sitting bone up towards your lower back. Swan proper, you might keep your chest up. But if that's too much and you don't want to activate your lower back already, feel free to come forward, bringing the head down, coming into sleeping swan. In the 5-minute pose is this. Maybe you stay for a little while, but maybe you come down. Noticing Chris chose to go down into sleeping swan, exploring that for a moment, and then deciding to rise back up, where Don has chosen to come down, and he's even supporting his head on his fists. Simply let it go. What do you feel? The beautiful part of staying in a pose for 5 minutes or more is that you get to feel your body better. Are you trying to squeeze your muscles, or will you allow them to melt, to let go, and simply trust that gravity will pull you down towards the ground, separating your bones away from each other. There's no right or wrong in the practice. There's just feeling. Feeling, can you stay calm and relaxed? Might be challenged. The pose is challenging the outside of your right hip along the outside of the right upper thigh, known as the IT band, the iliotibial band. Even though it's challenging, it should still provide you with the ability to stay calm mentally. That calmness might express itself because you can breathe in and out through the nose. Though in this particular practice, if you feel that you need to exhale with the mouth at times, trust yourself. Your breath might change in the various postures of Yin. Unlike a flow class, where it's the breath that leads the body. In the Yin class, it's the patience to stay in the pose with as little fidgeting as possible. Adjustments, intelligent adjustments, such as moving into sleeping swan, as some of our practitioners have, or backing off if you went too far. Those are intelligent movements, as opposed to fidgeting. You'll discover in this class that on one side we'll provide more information, and where on the other side it might be more soft and quiet. If you're doing this class from your computer or your home video system, feel free to mute the sound once you're familiar with the poses, and perhaps put soft music to your liking in the background. Often, this practice is considered to be a quiet practice. A quiet practice that allows us to enter that state of meditation. If your audio is on, when the sound of the bell rings, And you can roll over to your right side. That's a fun way to collect the back knee in and lay on the side. That's one option. Maybe you lay on your stomach or go to downward dog. That's a beautiful option. Stay rested, moving, adjusting yourself. And whenever you feel ready, you can start back from all fours, or if you're familiar with the pose now, from any other direction, draw your left knee to your left wrist. Slide your left ankle by the right knee, extend your right leg back. Feel the stretch from the outside of your left knee to the lower back on the left side. Which means that sometimes we roll out a little bit, not fully squared with the hips like pigeon, which requires the activation of the back leg. And that's perfectly fine. If you feel it on the outside of the knee, up towards the gluteal region and up to the lower back. Whether you stay in swan proper, or you go down to the sleeping swan, our primary focus is our hips. Opening the bones at the hip joint socket. In the process, both the knee and the ankle, and as well as the vertebrae of the lower back, also come to life. A joyous nature, our joyous capacity to discover where we came from, has an attribute of going out of the mind and being in the moment. Of being present. Little Peter walked out of his room ready to go to school when his mother looked at him and she said, "Oh, darling, you put your shoes on the wrong feet." Little Peter looked up at his mom and he said, "But Mommy, I only have these feet." Notice in the swan proper, you can let your head fall down. You might let your head fall back. Those of you with the full flexibility might take the back leg, bending it, grabbing the foot from the bottom, and allowing the body to rotate. My hand is sliding. I will let it go, but feel free to explore the various dimensions of your flexibility. we slowly find the sound. We can roll to the side. You can lay on your stomach. Remember the options we had before. You'll come out of a yin pose in whatever way suits your comfort the most. If you feel like you need any action between the poses, nothing prevents you from choosing to do a few movements. If you're more familiar with the yoga practice and you'd like them, an upward dog to downward dog are perfectly fine to explore. And when you're ready to join us again, you'll come to all fours, you'll lift your ankles, cross them behind you. Roll back over your legs, extend your legs out in front of you. You might move forward on the mat. Sitting at the middle of the mat, feet in front of you, bend the knees. And now we work just one hip at a time, combining both hips together. This is known either as shoelace. Shoelace will take the right foot under the left knee, pointing the toes to the side, allowing the left leg to cross over, and the legs cross, toes pointed. If it's too much for the legs to extend together in shoelace, you might keep your right leg straight and simply fold the left leg over the right leg with one leg straight in front of you. You might take square pose. In the square pose, the ankle and the knee are in line, and now we're going to stack the shins one on top of the other. Either variation works both of your hips. Either variation, even if the leg is straight, will activate through the body. And it's of course always okay to cross just at the ankles, if that's all we have today. Walk your hands forward, relax your head down. If you're in half a shoelace or shoelace, feel free to hug the knee if that's what works for you. And if you fully need it and don't need to fold in half, you can stay upright, simply relaxing the head down. What we're focusing upon is these outer sections of the middle of the body, what we consider our hip joints. In this particular video, we'll simply look at the Western expression of our body. But we'll point out that there's a deep understanding on the connection between the energetic body, energy lines that move in our body, that affect the physical frame. Those ideas are laid out in an ancient Chinese manual known as the Naijing that describes how 20 particular energy lines that we call meridians, moving from each organ, such as the stomach or the spleen, the liver or the lungs, and reach out to create the various parts of our body. In other videos, we look at those ideas. But today, we simply enjoy the magic of opening our bones, relaxing the muscles, and discovering the freedom that we unveil by just holding poses 3 to 5 minutes and surrendering, trusting, that we will walk taller, that we'll enjoy greater range of motion for the next 24 hours or more in the balancing part of our body. These hips areas support the upper body, allowing us to move with freedom, to stand with strength, to sit with ease and comfort. Rising up, out of the pose, you might place the feet flat and shake the knees. Maybe you want to extend the legs and shake the legs. If you need to release through your back and your chest, you might take your hands behind you. Maybe the forearms, lifting the heart, letting the head hang back. We call this a hammock, because it's as if you're hanging in a hammock. If you need to activate your stomach muscles, don't be afraid to lie down, hugging the knees. Maybe lifting the legs straight up towards the ceiling, lifting the arms towards the toes, lifting the head, activating the stomach muscles, squeezing the core for 2, 1. Then you might hug your knees, lift the head. And you might roll up to sitting or any other way find to come back to a seated position. Remember what you did on the other side. If you're following my voice, we had the knees bent. Shoelace, the left foot came right under the right knee. The right leg crossed all the way over. Maybe half a shoelace with the left leg straight and the right leg crossed over. Maybe the square pose. The knees are stacked, the shin bones stack. Or maybe just the ankles crossed today. When you're ready, you can come forward, leaning forward, allowing the body to move towards the front. These poses, targeting our hips, are extremely beneficial, not only for those of us sitting in the office chairs for many hours of the day, many of us who drive around spending hours sitting, driving our car, but especially for runners, mountain bikers, street racers. Any action that repetitively moves your legs in the hip socket, causing them to tighten, to reduce the range of flexibility through our hips. Notice how even now our knees and our ankles benefit from the pose. Remembering that we're one complete part, and even though we're choosing to focus on particular areas, those are just concepts. Trying to draw a picture with black and white colors to make it accessible for your mind to understand. But in the end, we're all connected. Physically, our body parts are connected, but also connected together, all of us in this room and those of us watching. Through practicing yoga, whether you do one pose, 5 minutes on each side, whether you do the whole sequence together with us, but practicing regularly, even for just a short period of time, will inevitably give you the vocabulary and the experience of the personal connection and the interpersonal connectedness that is available whenever you choose to take it. thing about a yin practice is that it does want to express itself. You come out of holding a pose for a while, don't be afraid to make sounds, make faces. Again, maybe you lie down as Chris is doing, maybe you take a bridge variation as Liza is doing, maybe you activate your stomach, maybe you take a hammock. Take your time. And when you're ready, you're back up again. We're going to do one more pose of a forward extension, trying to extend through our legs. But now we're going to also work through our hips and slightly stretch to the back before we'll reverse it. All of the movements we've just done with our upper leg and the hip were more like a lateral movement, rotating the leg outward. The double pigeon, even though brought the legs in, still rotates the legs, upper thighs at the hip outward. And so will this next one, butterfly. So butterfly will bring the outsides of the feet together. If you want your lower back to stretch more, keep your feet out away from you. If you want to feel the stretch more in the inner thighs at the groin, you'll pull your feet inner. You can walk your hands forward, relax the head. If you need to support your head, you can use your hands. You can hold the feet. You might lift the head if it doesn't want to hang low, but your body is hanging forward. The hips and the shoulders are considered to be a ball in a socket joint. If you look at my hands, it's a ball in a socket that can rotate fully all the way, where the shoulders have less connective tissue around them, really allowing the arm to rotate fully at 360 degrees. The hips, because of their job supporting the upper body, are heavily padded with connective tissue. As we get older, in the seated life that we have chosen in modern times, the connective tissue of the hips becomes stronger, holding the bones together, restricting the full range of motion that we enjoyed in the early years of our life. If you have young children, babies, you can see how much rotation you can take their leg as much as you can take your arm. How much rotation and freedom will you experience by practicing these yin poses? No one knows. How long will it take you to achieve freedom? That is also unknown. But what is positive is that you will feel more range of motion. You will feel a greater freedom after your practice than you did before the practice. And hopefully that will inspire you to continue the practice regularly. After all, every day, gravity pulls you down, compressing your bones. Every day we sit in a chair, whether we drive the car or sit in an office or on the couch. And thus every day our body is closing. In today's practice, simply trying to inspire us to appreciate yoga poses and the physical therapeutic benefits that they have, which are similar to the toothbrush and the toothpaste. The regular brushing of our teeth keeps them healthy. also allows us to have a feeling of a fresh, clean mouth. I promise you that when you stand up after this practice, you'll have a tremendous, clean feeling in your body. And that's a priceless jewel. You can't put a price tag on the magic that we can feel from the inside out. And it only requires a few minutes effort in staying in a pose. As we rise, these deep forward bends do enjoy a great release through the legs and a hammock maybe, hands back or forearms back, maybe a reverse tabletop. If you need to work your stomach, don't be afraid to hug your knees and stretch the legs up. Reaching the arms towards the legs, activating the core muscle group at your belly. Even though we were folded forward, we were applying it with as little muscular strength as possible. So the abdominal work can help us create that. And when we're ready, we'll sit up. The next two variations are just one leg at a time. They're designed to help now rotate the leg internally. Whereas we just mentioned we were rotating the leg externally up until now. None will allow the leg to rotate internally, which will also now touch on our lower back. We're going to let the legs open as wide as the mat. Bend the right leg towards your sitting bone. Your toes can point outward or they can point inward. There's about a 90 degree angle between the legs. Your hands can go behind you. And if you need it and you have it, you might put a pillow behind you. Otherwise, you can go down on your forearms. If your toes point out to the side and you come all the way down, your knee might lift. And that's perfectly fine. It might one day get to the floor, but you don't have to push it down. There you go, you got it, Chris. It's okay, the knee can be up. If you need a pad under the foot, might be like another towel, mat. There you go. Comfortable in the pose. Challenged by bending the straight leg at the knee, putting the foot flat on the floor. this internal rotation of the upper leg at the hip is one of the least movement we do in the body. It also helps to arch the lower back, known as a half saddle. It is one of the best postures to help you fight against the deterioration of your lumbar. As we get older, we lose the round curve of the lower back, and no one knows why, but by practicing regularly, we can help maintain it. Remember, we don't mess with the knees. Noticing Jason discovered that by rising, he can maintain a better place for his body. And yes, if we had had some bolsters here, we could have provided him with those. But it's perfectly fine to just be on your hands. For some, the knee has lifted off of the floor, and that's also safe. You might roll over to that straight leg side to kick the bent knee out. If you need to rest on your side, now we're expressing ourselves. that brought out some of our And while some people can enter this by lying down, we sat back up. We allowed our legs to open as the mat, and then the other leg comes in when we're ready. Whether the toes turn inward or outward, our hands come and we can go one elbow, and then the other elbow. Maybe we stay here and the head hangs. Or maybe we trust that we can get down towards the floor. Maybe the knee lifts. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe the straight leg finds the capacity to bend at the knee. And as you can see in our class today, a variety of physical bodies. A variety of range of motion. An inspiration for both us in this room and for you at home to realize that wherever you are, this practice is for you. Always trust that even if you stay in the pose for and slowly over time building to stay in the pose as long as we are, or even longer, Those are wonderful places to be. The bones, the connective tissue are ligaments that hold the bones together. Respond very different than the muscles, where your muscles can expand and release tension by getting blood circulation, whether through external heat or movement such as sun salutations. The bones and the connective tissue require a challenge, non-muscular effort, and time. Time in that challenged position of the body. Hence we consider muscles that change very quickly under the yang idea, where yang stands for something that is changing, moving. Yin, its counterpart, where the day is giving you a chance to see the changes going on, belongs to yang. The night, where things are dark, the view is limited, things are quiet, non-changing, is more of a yin. Hence the difference between a yin practice and the yang practice. For some, focusing on the breath or exploring breathing variations in the pose can truly help you to let go of the physical tension and stay calm and centered in the moment. Some discover that the sound of the teacher's voice helps them to stay centered and calm. And yet some simply center on their body. You can roll to your bent knee side, kick the leg out, shake it out, and we're going to end up on our back when you are ready. Now that we have worked both external and internal rotation, one hip, both hips, and the groin, let's create a little twist in the spine to settle all of the energy in our body. So bend your legs at the knees, put your feet flat on the floor. You can take the arms out like a letter T, out in line with your shoulders. If you want to challenge it all, take the right leg over the left leg, cross the legs all the way. Maybe you'll even tuck the toes under the calf muscle. Let both of your knees go over to the left side of your body. Look over the right shoulder. Close your eyes and enjoy. While we're holding these poses now, only 2 minutes on each side. Feel free to explore them for longer time. Notice that even though we're twisting, flushing the organs, twisting and massaging the vertebrae at the spine, we're still hitting our hips, even if your knees are together and you're not crossing one knee over the other. You might even choose to bring the knees up towards the chest more. Notice the beautiful intelligence of Jason and Chris choosing to feel the pose in one variation and then choosing to modify. Still feeling the twist, the massage, as well as their hips. Bless you. Come back to the center. Uncross and maybe recross the left leg over the right. Feel your body, and when you're ready, the legs will go to the right. Notice how Liza allowed herself to help her ankle to bind under the calf. Some of us will wrap. Some of us might find that as we twist, we want to let go of the wrap, as Chris released his knees, allowing his knees to come back together, excuse me. A quiet place. It can be at times slightly unnerving. Even in ancient time, they were aware that silence, quiet practices can be slightly challenging, as expressed in this little tale about 3 yoga students who decided to give silent meditation a chance. And for 1 week they would be in silence. At the end of the first day, they were sitting together at a table, reading to a light of a candle. The window was open, it's a beautiful evening, and suddenly a breeze flushed through the room, blowing the candle out. One of the students said, "Oh no, the candle is out." And the second student says, "Hey, we're not supposed to be speaking." And the third student jumps up and says, "Wow, I'm the only one who did not speak." As you come back to the center, you might hug your knees into your chest, rock side to side. And in Yin, we have a beautiful option. If you want to take your final pose, the Shavasana, laying on the back, let your legs release in front of you, open the legs wider than the mat, and maybe take the arms over the head in a letter V, arms 45 degrees. If you want to take the final pose in a seated meditation, feel free to come up and sit. So in this particular class, you have that option. Whether you're sitting or lying down, soften your eyes, half open, half closed, or maybe fully closed. And feel your toes relaxing. Feel your knees melt. Feel how the hips begin to settle into the floor. Some of your tension might leave your body. And if some tension stays, that's okay. Now in relaxation, accept it. Embrace it. The contents of your stomach begin to dissolve, and any strain or discomfort that might continue there can melt. Just as the snow melts in the heated sun. Your chest opens, your heart expands, allowing your shoulders to relax. Suddenly your arms relax. And all the way into your fingers, there's a softness. With a space in the upper body, now your neck feels like it can become longer. And like a turtle that extends its head out of its shell, so we can allow our head to release from gravity, finding freedom and extending upward, extending up and away from us, even if you're lying down. If you're comfortable with visualization, you might choose to visualize a bright yellow light entering your body from the top of your head through your spine, your stomach to your toes, energizing you. And then you can visualize a cool blue light coming in from your toes and running up your body, extending out through the head. And thus together, this yellow and blue light going down and up, like the yin and the yang symbol, circling, fueling and relaxing you. As you let your breath stay calm, and whether you feel your body melting or you visualize your body in a circle of yellow and blue lights, we'll enjoy a few more moments in our own silent place to absorb everything that we have given ourselves today. As you hear the bell, if you're lying down, feel free to let the bell help you, moving the fingers and toes. You might bring your knees into your chest. And if you were lying down with your knees at your chest, hugging your knees over to the right side, rolling over. However you make it, find your way and come back to sit. If you're in a seated place, if you need to adjust it, feel free to do it. But then return to another seated moment. Feel that you can sit tall yet again. Let your hands come together at the heart. Reminding ourselves that today is a gift. And that's why we call it present. So thank yourself and let me thank you for being here, being present. And let's open our eyes and find that there's a present because we are in the presence of others. Thank you, Liza. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Celeste. And thank you so much for joining us here in the room and here on the camera. Namaste.